Welcome to Track Talk, your connection coast to coast and beyond. California to New York, Florida, and Kentucky. We have you covered. It's time. Live from San Diego, it's Track Talk. We welcome you from San Diego on a bright Sunday morning. The Orangeman is ready, donned in his orange gear. Syracuse a little bit later on. That's Tommy D, our producer, inside the WS Radio Network studios. We're live at San Diego just after 8 o'clock, up and down the coast of Southern California, worldwide, over the internet at www.wsradio.com. It's Track Talk. We scan the country. We bring you the exciting stories that develop in the world of thoroughbred horse racing. We are the conduit that brings and connects the racing fans to the horses. And what a beautiful day yesterday, ladies and gentlemen. We are live at top of the morning from beautiful San Diego, California. Hope it's beautiful where you are. We have a lot of happy people throughout the country that have followed this radio program for many, many years. And Tommy D, and nice to see your smiling face. I know it is a big day for you, my friend.
Yeah, big day. Excited to be here on the radio today. Awesome day of racing yesterday. As we saw, a new Derby contender showing up. 3 for 3, Magnum Moon by Malibu Moon. Saez and Todd Pletcher connect yesterday in the big one in the Rebel. So excited to see a new horse in the mix that we're going to be talking about. Also, Martini Glass, Captain brought up yesterday, and Hedge Fund in the big races there. And don't forget Fault yesterday in the San Margarita. Big win there. Big wins all across
the country. It was exciting. And then you sprinkle in a little bit March Madness where buzzer beaters have been, well, the norm in the first 3 days of the NC2A men's basketball tournament. But what a great day, and you're absolutely right. Great racing at Aqueduct. Trevor McCarthy with a nice winner yesterday. We go down to South Florida where the big boys were away. Johnny V, Luis Saez. I keep on talking about Luis Saez, how I've been watching this rider from Panama. And he reminds me so much of Lafitte Pincay Jr., and he is so steady. His ride on Magnum Moon yesterday in the Rebel was picture perfect. Todd Pletcher got a real runner here. We're about 7 weeks away from the Kentucky Derby. The excitement is starting to build. Magnum Moon was pretty impressive in the Rebel yesterday.
Oh, unbelievable. Yeah, this horse has done nothing wrong, so proved it could do the distance yesterday, and definitely a notch up. Solomini right there had a little tough trip, but also another strong horse to pay attention to. I think both of those horses are ones to pay attention going towards the Derby.
You know, when you look at the total landscape of thoroughbred horse racing, it has different tiers, and we're in the second tier right now. Now we're getting close to the Derby. The pitch will be high. The fans will come to the sport. And promoting this sport is very, very important, of getting, the young, the young folks in there, the millennials, if you will. And how do you get them into the game? It's been an ongoing question for many, many years. But if you can go ahead and build on superstars and you can build on the product, when Zenyatta raced or California Chrome, they were superstars. They were like a Michael Jordan in the NBA. You need to have your superstars. We go up to Santa Anita. You talk about a superstar. He's joining us right now on the radio. He must be on cloud 22 because his 4-year-old little girl, Fault, wins the Santa Margarita yesterday, in a race which I thought that she was just marvelous. And we caught her back at the Santa Isabel, and he's joining us live from Santa Anita. Mark Martinez is joining us. He's part owner of this great 4-year-old daughter, Blaine. Mark, at top of the morning, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Felix.
How you feeling, man?
Well, I'm feeling pretty darn good. I'm not on cloud 29. I'm actually at Clockers watching one of my colts breeds as we speak.
All righty. So what cloud would that be compared to winning yesterday?
Well, have you seen the backdrop across the grandstands and the track over to the San Gabriel Mountains behind it? I'm not sure it gets any better than that.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't. Thanks for joining us, Mark Martinez. You are getting involved with thoroughbred horse racing. You have a very, very successful technology company in San Antonio, Texas, and you're the new face of California racing. You combine with two of my buds, Billy Koch, as well as Gary Fenton, and they have Little Red Feather Club and Little Red Feather Racing, which they bring fans to the game. And that picture, you talk about pictures overlooking, the San Gabriel Mountains, but that winner's circle picture yesterday might be, an office one that you frame and put and look at it and think, wow, man, these are all my friends. I just won a grade 1 with the daughter of Blame Fault yesterday. It must feel pretty darn good.
It feels very good. But, you saw the faces in that winner's circle photo. I mean, there's 100 people that probably helped in one way or another get that filly to the winner's circle. And I'd say that photo is just representative of a lot of hard work that went into it.
We talked about this. I talked with a golf professional yesterday. I was with a former NBA player yesterday and a former Charger. And we were talking about hours that go into, perfecting your craft. It takes a lot of time. Horses are athletes. Sometimes they don't feel good. Sometimes they get injured. It takes a lot of time. You got to really be, very careful around these horses itself. And so it does take endless hours. But I want to get back to something that I think that, I'm really excited to hear about, and I'm sure our listening audience would be as well, is that how did Mark Martinez get involved with thoroughbred horse racing?
Well, I entered through the syndicate, someone's group similar to what Little Red Feather does today. And actually, they were headquartered here in Southern California called Bongo Racing. And I'm a staunch believer that that's the right way to enter the game. Tie on to a fraction of the horse, build camaraderie, learn the game. And if you decide that, taking a bigger piece in the future works for you, then you can evolve to that level. But it's spread the risk, spread the wealth, spread the fun. And so what folks like Billy Koch and Gary do at Little Red is where I think we need to take the game.
I often ask people when I meet them, around the racetrack, who took them to the track? How'd you get involved with thoroughbred horse racing? Where was your first visit? What track did you visit? Who were you with? Your father, your grandfather? What about you?
Well, it was actually the harness racing back in Michigan in the 70s. And then I kind of fell off from the game for a number of years. And I'm a traditional sports guy. I love basketball, football. But always admired and was excited about thoroughbred racing and the pageantry around it. And so eventually I got to Texas and tied on to a couple of horses running on that circuit, came up through the ranks, and one day decided, I really want to come to Southern California. And there were a lot of people that helped build that bridge, if you will. And I've been out here for about 3 years now, and, things are going pretty good. I have look, Felix, if you're going to be in the game, I remember the first book I read before I ever bought my first thoroughbred racehorse. It was about pick a group and pick people that you're going to want to be around and have fun with. And I'm there. I've got a great group of people around me, good advisors, a great trainer in Phil D'Amato and his team, and good partners like Little Red Feather and others that I share many of my horses with.
Let's talk a little bit about Phil D'Amato. This is a protege of the late Mike Mitchell. Phil D'Amato is very well trained. We talk about hours that go into training. I've talked to Phil. I know we had Phil on this radio program during the course of the last 2 summers at Del Mar. He's a quiet guy. He has a lot of horses. How does he maintain? Share a little bit of behind the scenes about trainer Phil D'Amato.
Well, first of all, and we all learn our trades, by being influenced, by others. And, no doubt he grew up under Mike, and that was good for him. But, make no mistake about it, Phil's his own man. And his training style and the way he approaches the game is, baked from his time with Mike, his observation from other, top trainers in the game. And I'm sure from watching people that are not as successful and learning what not to do. So, Phil's just an incredible guy, easy guy to work with. Collaborates with his owners. That keeps me plugged into the game, makes it fun for me. When I know where my horses are going, we collaborate on the spots, the path. Even when it comes to adding new horses to the stable, we go over it together. What do you think? And it's either all in or none of us in. And that's how Phil approaches the game, and he makes it fun for his owners.
Yeah, I agree. He's a pretty hard worker as well. He's really hands-on. How many horses does Phil D'Amato have?
I'd probably in the 100, little over 100 range would be my guess, but that'd be a better question for Phil. But he's got a great team. I mean, he's got, of course, the more horses you have, the more staff you have, and the more staff you have, the more you have to work yourself to manage it and oversee it and run it. I mean, he's running a business that's 3 times the size of my IT company, to give you an example. And
you have a pretty darn big IT company located in San Antonio, Texas, and I appreciate those kind words. That's some food for thought. I want to ask you, Mark, in regard to watching Fault win yesterday, when she opened up and you knew that she was going to win, what was your first thought?
I'm not sure I can repeat that over the radio, but man, that was my first thought. One of the guys the guy that helped me pick her out, he was standing next to me, and he said, he may be moving too soon. And then, she made a long, sustained run, and obviously Giovanni knew she was full of run. And, that was an impressive win. I mean, you don't normally win a grade 1 by 6 on the dirt. So and of course, we knew we had a pretty good idea that moving her from the grass to the dirt would work based on how she was working in the mornings. And we just figured we'd sit and wait for the right spot. Unique Bella, not being able to go in there, obviously, made that a little bit more attractive for us. Probably doubled the field size, but it moved us into a position where we thought we had a legitimate shot to win. But it was pretty darn exciting, not just for me and my team, but the Little Red Feather and all of the investors and partners that they have that's behind this filly.
May I ask you who picked her out?
So I have a guy that actually he used to run Bongo named Dave Carmen. He has a regular job just like I do. I mean, horses are a hobby and obviously a business for me. But we always collaborate on claim prospects. So he finds one, I find one. We run them. I'll say, hey, look at the 7. Tell me if you see anything, and I don't tell him who I'm on, and he'll do the same to me. And if we come together on the same horse, then we spend hours breaking down video, pedigrees, and trainer behavior, that sort of stuff. And so Dave Carmen and I worked together on that filly.
So when you got into the game and you start coming back to California, how many horses is under your banner, and how many do you have now?
When I got out here, ironically, it was how my introduction to Phil D'Amato. So I had a Bear Bloodstock picked out a street sense filly named Street Fancy. And we bought her for $35,000 and shipped her in here to Phil. And long story short, she won the Grade 1 Starlet, which was my first graded stakes win. And then from there, that was the first horse I had. I sent a couple of kind of claimers down to Del Mar for some ship and win action. And then now I've got 11 in training with Phil, and I've got 4 more on the farm getting prepped up to come into him.
What I want to ask you before I toss into the studio, Tommy D is an owner. He's a young millennial, really energized kind of guy about this game, almost like you have just shared with the first 12 and a half minutes that we've been on. But I want to ask you, and I have so many questions, I want to ask you about how important in your world is the breeding aspect of it. I mean, you look and you just shared with us about your friend who selected Fault, and it could be on just the eye looking at the athlete itself, but in baseball, we're seeing a lot of analytics and, a lot of decisions being made. Nicks is another thing that comes to my mind when people would put the genetics of the dam and the broodmare and have the foal in thinking that this is, the way it's going. Then we have the dumbass partners who put, California Chrome with, with that breeding, which was like breeding two short people. And no discredit to short people, and then having, Will Chamberlain come out, because that's what California Chrome was to me when I look at the breeding aspect of it. How important is breeding to you?
Well, first of all, that's part of the beauty of the game is that our champions come to us from all kinds of different sources. Homebreds putting together, a lucky pulpit with an unnamed mare. And then an unaccomplished mare, or, through the claim box like a false, or, through a 2-year-old in training sale. That's kind of the beauty of the game. But, where does it begin and where does it, and what's the most important element of the game? It's all important. Without one, the other doesn't exist. We have to have the stallions. We have to have the brood mares and the farms. We have to have the auction companies. We need to have the bloodstock agents that help the owners pick, the right kind of horses. We need owners with money. And, that's really where the game, if you said, well, what's the most important element of the game? Obviously, without owners to buy the horses, there's no demand. So we need to create new demand. And that's the thing that Little Red Feather is doing that I admire. And it's not easy work, believe me. I see these guys up close and personal. But reaching out to the next generation and trying to, highlight the pageantry and the fun of the game here. And I think that's where, we really need to turn our focus. If we have demand and interest, then we'll have product.
I agree with you totally on that. It's hard to explain to a millennial that, this sport is, breaking out as a demand factor when there's 35 minutes between races. And this is a problem that I'm seeing with millennials, is that millennials will go play poker because it's very quick. Another hand comes every 30, 45 seconds. But in horse racing, unless we address that this is a new generation of now texting, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, these millennials aren't going to come around to the track and wait 30 minutes, to bet a horse race with, that void and that vacuum in time. Would you agree on that?
Well, I would, but and there's things we can do. Actually, yesterday I noticed in between races that Santa Anita had the horseshoe competition for people to, win a chance to win $1 million or $250,000. I can't remember exactly what it was, and that filled the gap for the people that were on track. Maybe part of it is we need to start toggling between two tracks, not 6 or 7 like a simulcast center has, where then it begins to become a little overwhelming. But we toggle. We'll just use Stronach and use Golden Gate, Santa Anita, and Gulfstream. We need to stagger those so that there's a race going off every 10 minutes, and then promote those other 2 tracks at the track so that people, and then make a point of putting up, the races. And then, of course, there's a lot of conversation about, well, how do we make the game easier to understand? And I'm not disputing your point, Felix, about immediate gratification, but I think there's things we can do to fill the gap so there's not 30 minutes in between races.
I agree with you on that. And, I look at the glass half full. I've been doing this for 25 years, interviewed every major owner, trainer, jockey. So, the body of work that I have provided as far as the love and the passion for the game. And unless we all come together and see that, this is a great game, like the experience of going to Santa Anita. Now, there might be some folks down here in San Diego that are listening to this radio program, or they could be in Houston, Texas, or Phoenix, Arizona, or Seattle, and say, I've never been to Santa Anita. Let's take a trip because it's so angelic with the background, the experience. It has to be more than racing. And until racing realizes that they're not the only game in town, it has to be more than racing, but the racing has to be the stronghold, and you can build around that. Tommy D, we go back and forth. You and I have been friends for 2 decades, Tommy D, and you know that we have this owner on, and when I talk with him, it recharges my batteries because he gets it. The excitement is in his voice. He just laid it out exactly why he's involved with thoroughbred horse racing. And the bottom line of Track Talk is to get this industry working together to build what it has. And I'll just go ahead and preface this by saying that the Breeders' Cup are looking into ways in which they could take a bigger share of the sports audience on that Saturday to view their product. Well, it just doesn't happen on one day. It happens 52 weeks of the year of building your product, building your brand. This is a great brand. The excitement, the stories of having the folks that work very hard get to a grade 1, watch a horse that they selected win a grade 1, have a jockey that has been on our show, Giovanni Franco, which I adore, win a grade 1. You see the smiles, the excitement. Tommy D, that's what you have been a preacher of for many, many years.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of the sport. You know, I grew up in 1980. It was when I was born, Felix, and my grandfather brought me to the track, and I love the sport. And you know, I really respect Mark and everything he does. I'm in the works of starting my own partnership, the Hip Horse, and I'm trying to get young people involved. We need to have events, VIP, make it more of a social event. Let's get people to the track. Let's have some fun. Let's, it needs to be more casino style. Let's give back to these gamblers and give back to the owners. Let's look out for everybody, and especially the millennials. Let's get them into the game. This is the most exciting 2 minutes. When you go to a track and you see a finish by a nose, or they go to a photo finish, that is very exciting for anybody. If you're there and watch it, you become addicted at the spot. And we got to get people in ownership, like Mark said. And who knows, maybe we have races where we put horses into the mix, and that horse goes to a partnership of people at the track that day. I don't know, but we got to get more owners. So I do agree with you, Mark, and respect you immensely for what you do. And congratulations on Fault. And I just want to know what's the next moment? What's the next spot for Fault?
Well, we haven't. We're gonna kind of take a deep breath, enjoy this one. She's answered every bell for, quite a long, we campaigned her pretty long, pretty hard. We'll probably, give her a short freshening off of this, and then, we'll point to the first weekend in November and back up from there and figure out what spots will lead to, running in the Breeders' Cup. Look for winning in and go from there. But one of the things, guys, about ownership that I tell people, like, why do you enjoy it? I said, it's like owning my own sports franchise. I don't have the money to be able to own the Dallas Cowboys or the Los Angeles Lakers, but I am able to tie on to my own franchise, which is the Gavi Racing Stable, have my own athletes, the horses. I have my own trainers, the Phil Diamatos. I have my own assistants, my scouts that help me find the horses. So it's a great way to own a sports franchise for a fraction of the cost.
Well said. Well said. And let me ask you this, like when you have a superstar like Fault winning a grade 1, what does that increase the breeding fees?
Well, that's the other part that I don't think we do enough of in terms of attracting people to the sport, is explaining the upside. Now, let's face it, guys, it's not an inexpensive game. But, I mentioned Street Fancy. I bought her for $35,000 and sold her for $1 million. Fault, I claimed her for $50,000. She's probably, she's run out $500,000, and she's probably worth $1.5 million. As you begin to, promote those wins, I don't care who you are and what generation you're from. Now you start to make it, you start to make the numbers work. And I think we probably need to do a little bit more of highlighting that, because we're competing for people's money and where they're going to invest it, and their entertainment dollars and where they're going to spend them. And I think that's something that we need to, maybe be a little more cognizant of as well.
Well, one thing about these winners in the breeding is that we were losing a lot to foreign interest. They were buying our sires, and I think that there's a number of ways that you could really promote this game and really get people excited, and that is one of them by letting them know that their investment. Look at the dumbass partners, what they paid. It had to be less than 30 or 40,000. And what's California Chrome worth? Millions of dollars. And then he goes to the breeding shed and what have you. But the bottom line is that there are so many different ways that we can really improve this game. But the most important thing is letting people know that when they come to the races, that for very little money, they can make a lot of money. And I'm talking about going in, $10, $20, $40, $50 on that day, and in wagering and having a good time. You can't. Barry Abrams, former trainer Barry Abrams, once told me that the racetrack is the only place that you could have a $5 bill and come out, with a lot more money. You can't do that in a casino, playing blackjack or slot machines or whatever. But if you just line up on one race and you hit it right, and then you can go ahead and multiply that, that's the excitement of it. I think there's so many beautiful things about our sports, Tommy D. And the fact is that we've got to continue to let people know that it's more than just gambling. It's about, the procession of getting the yearling, getting him into training, watching him break his maiden, moving up, competing at the highest level, and having an interest of the love of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Again, people into the experience, watching your horse come off the trailer and come to the farm and just watch it grow up. And I've seen a firsthand experience, and it truly is a different experience when it's your horse. It's unbelievable to see the development in this animal over time, hitting the track from the time it gets off the track to the time it hits the track. So, it's something we do need to get and educate more people about. And I think if people knew about the game a little bit more, they would be into it. So I think there's a little bit lack of education to the millennials, and I think we can fix that. And we got to get this game going, because this is a special game. And like Mark said, there's a lot of money in the world. And as we see, we're adding different races every year. The Pegasus Million, geez, come on, guys. This is big money. There's money to be made in this game.
You stole my thunder, brother. You stole my thunder, because I was just going to say, when people say, well, it's a dying game, I said, look, on the day of the mandatory payout at Gulfstream Park in that Rainbow Pick 6, it was $3 million. We did the radio show that weekend. It was either a Saturday or Sunday. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Tommy D. And then when we went to the track, that pool that day was $20 million. They wagered $17 million in one afternoon in a thoroughbred horse racing pool. Now, I think that's pretty productive, wouldn't you say, Mark?
$20 million for a 20-cent bet? Yeah, I'd say so. But the millennials that you keep referring to, Felix, they aren't aware of that. Those of us in the game are aware of that. There's no shortage of money at the top of the game today. We've got to build, though, from the bottom up. We need the grassroots, and I think that is going to have to be through these syndicates that allow people to enter the game with a 5% share in a horse, go to the saddling paddock, go to the winner's circle, know they're a part of something, and feel the excitement. And then if it works for them, then they can begin to expand. And then, oh, by the way, instead of having one person tied onto a horse talking about it, you've got 20 people sharing in a horse, talking to their friends, and so it begins to expand. It's the law of large numbers.
Yeah, I agree with that, and there are so many ways in order to that you can promote this game. But the bottom line is this, and we do the sports show that follows Track Talk here called The Bottom Line. So I'll give a plug into our March Madness show. I can't wait to get Maddie B on from Boston, talk about all that's developing. But I got to tell you, what racing does is they do the same old thing. You got to think outside the box right now. You can't run your business like you did 10 or 15 years ago. There are major problems in California. And, the bottom line is that you've got to continue to promote and do the now things. I looked in the San Diego Union, a major newspaper. Yesterday, they just had the entries. They used to have, the total handicapping from the syndicated handicappers, may it be Bob Ike or Jeff Siegel or Mike Superstein or whoever it might be. The papers have shied away. They have put racing back. There's so much sports. How much time do we get on Sports Center on special moments? Racing needs to do things that are outside the box and also give the opportunity for new people to come in to experience it. But you can't gouge them with these prices at concessions. More people to go to Vegas right now. The food and beverage is bigger than the gambling dollar in Vegas. So if you make racing entertainment and say, look, you know what? You can come here. You got music at Del Mar. You've got great events at Santa Anita. If you can get people to come to the track to have a good time. I had a friend that came from Chicago. He lost $800. And then we met at Tractons after the races, and he was more upset with. He wasn't upset that he lost $800. He was more upset, Mark, with the fact that he had a round of drinks that cost him $82. And so the bottom line is that food and beverage make it accessible for the fans. They come out, they wager, they learn about it, but the infrastructure of racing is completely wrong because we do not go into the minor league system of developing new fans. Look,
but Felix, in fairness to the horse racing, though, I go to basketball games, football games, professional, baseball games. They're $15 cheeseburgers and $10 beers there too. What I would say is we probably ought to have free parking, free admission, encourage people to come in. Don't shake them down at the gates. But, that's just a function of, running a business and operating a business. So I don't know that, I don't pay attention probably as closely as you do to what the price of a round of drinks are at Santa Anita. But I will say I don't know that it's different than any other sport. And I want to talk about the media because you mentioned the newspaper and that, all they have is the entries and nothing else. But that's not how people consume their information today. Certainly the millennials don't. It's all done on their smartphones. And so we've got to reach out electronically. And we need to have, we have a single horse channel dedicated to our business. I mean, and oh, by the way, it's not even carried on half of the packages on cable. So I think that would help to, bring people into the game, too. It's certainly going to have to be through awareness campaigns.
100%. I was sharing with Tommy D. I said, like the jackpot down at Gulfstream Park is $3.3 million today. And so the bottom line, if I worked for Gulfstream Park and I was racing, then, I would go ahead and get tweets out. I'd get text out and letting people know. Now, you might be in your office. You might be doing a presentation, getting ready for this week's work, whatever the case might be. And all of a sudden you get a text or an email that there's a $3 million. It's awareness. You got to let people know, what's going on in the game. And like I said, I'm not trying to, direct my thoughts to the glass half full. I've been in this game a long period of time. I love this game, and I'll tell you what, there is a lot more that's good in thoroughbred horse racing than there is bad, and I'll go to my grave and believe in that. We just got to go ahead and bask in the moment, and the moments are getting involved with a game in which you can make some money, you can have fun, you can meet friends, and you can feel the excitement of the athletes through an equine. And like you said, building your own franchise. And that's the most important thing as far as your feel, and that's what's important to you, and that's what you're doing. So it's been a good ride for you.
Yeah, it's been one heck of a good ride. Coming out here 2 weekends in a row, my wife and I flew out Saturday morning and last weekend and back Sunday, and then we flew out yesterday morning and back this afternoon. And, to leave with 2 grade ones, she's my lucky charm. bring her with me to every race now.
Absolutely right about that. Women's intuition, they bring it, and there's a lot, and there's another thing we can talk about. We can do another show on how to get women involved in this game, because you know what? Women like thoroughbred horse racing, but sometimes they feel like it's a man-dominated sport. They don't know the lingo, exacta, trifecta, superfecta, easy five, pick three, whatever the case might be, and you get them acclimated. But the most important question I have for you at this hour right now, sir, is, are the San Antonio Spurs going to make the playoffs?
Well, I'm pulling for them to be the number 7 seed and play Golden State in the first round, and let's get it on. Get to net right away. Don't extend it out. If we knock off Golden State, then we'll look for Houston in the conference finals. I've been a season ticket holder since David Robinson's first year. And so in fact, I'm wearing a Spurs shirt as we speak. And the question will be, where's Kawhi? Where's Kawhi? Is he coming back? Because obviously he's one of the 5 best players in the game. If you follow the game, you know that. And we're running out of season. But yeah, I think we get in 7 seed, Golden State first round. Let's see what happens.
Are you telling me, sir, that you were a season ticket holder at the Hemisphere Arena?
I am telling you that.
that was the Hemisphere Arena. There was an assistant coach that left. He worked for Popovich, and he left to take the Orlando job as the right-hand man. His name is Chad. I can't remember his last name, but I got a call on a Friday, and that he and his wife were going to be in town, and would I be available to take him to the track? So I took his wife, she was a TV reporter in Louisville, and they moved to San Antonio, and he worked for Pop, and we went out to dinner, and just listening about the San Antonio Spurs stories about Popovich, about Tim Duncan. It just made me it was unbelievable. I mean, it really was. I mean, it was like a seminar. I wanted more. I can't believe just what the effect that the San Antonio Spurs have had on the San Antonio community.
Oh, it's big, and they do it the right way, Felix. I mean, they're professional in how they conduct themselves on and off the court. It's just one of the bright shining stars of our city. I mean, it's been incredible. I think I've been there for 5 champions. I think we have 5 now, and we just keep reloading. And it doesn't hurt when you have the Admiral, and then Timmy D and Tony Parker and Ginobili. I mean, and then Pop obviously gets along well with the players and gets the most out of them. So it's a model franchise. Pound the rock.
Yeah, absolutely. His name was Chad Forcier. I just had to rack my brain. But, a tribute to a champion is so I want to use the San Antonio Spurs, when they played Miami and they had the championship ripped away from them.
I was in Miami for that game, by the way.
Oh, man, that was sick.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
But keep in mind, if we win that championship, we might not win the next year. That team came back with purpose and focus the next year like I've never seen, and their run through the playoffs was phenomenal. So, things have a funny way of working out.
That's exactly where I was going with it. I mean, you talk about the real heart of a champion. Most teams would have never been able to recover from that. I mean, they were wheeling the Larry O'Brien trophy down on the floor with less than 25 seconds to go. They were ready to present it to the San Antonio Spurs, and then Ray Allen hit the 3-pointer to send the game into overtime, and that was the series right there. It forced the game 7. But to come back after all that adversity. The analogy of, watching horses that can't win or get hurt, or then come back and see all that, and the drive and the determination and the focus that they have, that's a great example to set forward, don't you think?
Well, probably more for the owners. This is a tough game. I mean, if we lose 80% of the time, we're successful. If that tells you, and that creates the challenge that drives many of us in the game. So when you have a horse that you think is going to be right there on the wire, run 5th or 6th. You scratch your head, but you pick yourself up and say you reload one 3 days later in another race. And so it's the owners that really, and the trainers, that have to pick themselves up and not let just one race define, how they feel about their game, their stable. So it's an aggregated approach that we take and Phil takes. And, right now I'm blessed to have a great team around me and love the game, man. And if anybody that happens to be listening, if you're not in, you're missing out on something really special. It's an incredible feeling. I played sports as a kid, and then as a young adult, and I'm telling you, there's nothing like, being a sports owner and a sports team, and you have a chance to be an owner of your own sports franchise in horse racing.
Yeah, I feel you, and I'm so happy that you joined us. Before we let you fly, and we thank you very much for joining us on Track Talk. Mark Martinez, M2 Technologies, and part owner of a number of horses with the Little Red Feather Group and the Little Red Feather Club, Billy and Gary, and to the syndicates, the passion that he has just shared. I want to ask you one final question before we have to fly out of here, because we got to talk a little bit about the races today. The fans are tuning in. The handicappers, the captain, and Tommy D have done a bang-up job educating our listeners, making them, we drive handle. This show drives handle, basically. And we bring the top faces of thoroughbred horse racing a little bit closer. But I want to ask you, he is very dear to my heart, because the first time I met him, we became instant friends, and it was just a summer ago. And that's Giovanni Franco. He's something special, isn't he?
Yeah, we're fortunate. In fact, we were talking about it last night over dinner. He joined us, and we were hoping he'd be just a kind of a well-kept secret, but I think the secret's out. This kid can ride, and he's just a great young man. Pleasant to be around. Hardworking, and he obviously gets along with Fault. So you'll probably see him on a few more of Agave Racing horses, I suspect. But he's going to be a little bit tougher to get in the future, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's one of our favorites. He joined us. A couple weeks back, and I love Giovanni, and I was sharing with our audience, because we had the daily racing report, the form reporter, racing form, Mary Rappolini, when we had her on during the Rebel and the Arkansas Derby coverage that we go into the different venues, we're asking her about some of the riders down there, and she said this Giovanni Franco is a rider that's riding under the radar. Well, she brought it to our attention, and he came out to California and he jump-started himself, and I couldn't be happier. To your wife, to you, to your entire team, congratulations. We're going to catch up. We're going to continue to keep our end of promoting this game. I'm sure you will as well, and it should be a great Sunday morning. Thanks for joining us, Mark.
Great. Thank you, Felix.
All right, my man. Thank you very much, and thank you, Tommy D, for a great interview. That's Mark Martinez. Fault, we've been following her. They should name her Faultless, because she's just been beautiful. She's just been beautiful. And winning a Grade 1 in convincing style like she won yesterday was off the charts. I mean, we all watch racing, and we all watch where you are in a race, and then all of a sudden your horse starts making a move, and you're right, Tommy D. Your heart starts pounding, the noses, the necks, the heads that you lose by. And you get, you start the body language, you miss by a nose. You start seeing your horse making the move and making that winning run. And when you know that you're going to win a race and you're on that horse, or you're a part of that horse, you're riding that horse, or you own that horse, you feel pretty good.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's definitely a fun sport. And as Mark was talking about, just watching your horse grow up is just an unbelievable thing. It's just like a animal or a sibling or a relative, and then to see it hit the track and go, it's we got 2 for the hip horse coming up here at the end of April, May. One is Speak Briley, and the other one is Bustin' April Stones. But been watching them progress over time, and it's just such a great experience. And it really is something I think a lot of people would be into if they knew more about it. But on that too, Felix, I think one thing that we were missing in that conversation is one thing that horse racing is missing is giving back to the community a little bit more and not so much take. Let's give back to the community. Let's make sure we're taking care of these retired horses and we're, doing events towards this too. Because I feel like horse racing does not do enough community events here locally, at least at Del Mar.
What do you mean? Like
giving back to the community. Let's do more charity events. Del Mar makes a lot of money. Let's give some of the handle back on that day. Let's get new corporations, maybe 10% of that day goes to a charity. You know how many people you're going to bring out that day that support that charity? Why not think outside the box a little bit? Let's give back to people. That's what the world is about, my friend.
Radio chatter. Running in the 5th race today as I look down there. So that's what we're doing. We're chatting.
I love it.
Chatting.
I have a star next to it, Felix. Yeah. Dropping down in class. Bad start last time out. If it scored a second and it made it 22 back 3-1, I like it.
Yeah,
It's funny you say that.
Yeah, well, it's we're chatting. We're chatting on the radio. Have we made contact with the captain?
Captain's here.
All right, Captain. What's going on this Sunday morning?
Just getting over a very busy Saturday yesterday. It was, a very unique day. I'll put it to you that way. It was a lot of, you didn't really get any clarification or any, things about the Derby. Solomina ran second, a solid second, but we have a new horse coming in out of optional claiming 75, going the same route as Justified. So, we're getting set for today and looking forward to a nice Sunday with no rain.
Yeah, that's right about that. What are you talking about, this new horse? There's a lot of new horses coming.
Well, I know, but for the Derby, on yesterday's Derby race where Solomina got beat.
Yeah, so what about it?
Well, I hadn't heard about, Magnum Moon, yeah. I haven't heard of Magnum Moon before this, so...
Undefeated.
Undefeated now, yeah, third race back.
All right, so what do you mean third race back?
Kind of the same thing race. That's the same thing that Baffert's doing with Justified.
All right, but it's not his third race back. He's undefeated in 3 starts.
Correct.
All right, so he ran like an undefeated horse yesterday.
Sure did.
All right, Solomina, Tommy D. We talked about this coming into the studio. You watched the race. You guys are somewhat idiotic of having a Derby horse right now. You got to have like 5 or 10 Derby horses, and then you got to narrow it down and watching it go. Just to say this horse is going to win the Derby, you're only fooling yourself.
Oh, definitely. I'm not,
But that's your horse, though, Solomina.
Yesterday, Solomina, yeah, I still think it had a decent, it got stuck on the inside a little bit, had to go out. A Solomini, I still think will improve. These horses are young, and do I think it's going to win the Derby?
That's your Derby horse. You're not saying it's going to win the Derby. But
I said yesterday, if I had to pick one right now out of all the horses, that's the one I would give you.
Okay, so that's your horse. That's okay. But you're not saying that.
I think it's wide open. I don't think it's you know what I mean. And
wide
yesterday,
open. There's 20 horses that can win the Derby.
Oh, exactly, wide open, just like the NCAA tournament, wide open.
Anything can happen.
I think, I think it is wide open, but. If yesterday before the race, if you asked me to pick one horse out of the 20, I would have told you Solomini.
Okay. So remember we talked about yesterday about the road to the Kentucky Derby is through Oaklawn Park. And we saw that, Todd Pletcher sends Luis Saez to Oaklawn Park, Magnum Moon. And then Flavian Pratt rode Solomini, if I stand correct. And that was a 2-horse race in which we talked about on this radio that we thought those were the 2 logical winners of the Rebel, right?
Yes. Yesterday we did speak of that.
All right. So listen, where's Justify going next?
Justified is going to Arkansas.
Really? No. Justify is going to be going to Arkansas.
For the Arkansas Derby, April 14th.
Wow. Who thought of that?
Bob Baffert, the trainer.
All righty.
Mackenzie's going to the Derby, April 7th.
What Derby?
Santa Anita Derby.
All righty. So they're going different routes.
Yeah.
So the routes are completely different.
Of course. That's what he does when he has multiple horses.
Okay. So which route do you think has been most successful for him?
To go through Sunland Park or go through
Sunland Park. Sunland
yeah,
Park. No, man, it's Oaklawn Park.
I know Oaklawn. He also goes through Sunland to get to get other horses into the Derby that he doesn't have going to the Derby through Arkansas or through Santa Anita.
Good point there. To get the points, you're absolutely right about that. So Sunland, Sunland Derby, whatever. It's probably if you're saying
qualifies.
How many points?
That's 50 points. 50, 20, 10, and 5.
On the Sunland Derby?
Yes, $800,000 race, March 25th.
All right. What about the Arkansas Derby? How many points?
That's the same thing.
All right.
50, 20, 10, and 5.
Perfect. So let me ask you this. So Justify and McKenzie. Justify, if in the future book is Justify
8-1.
Justify is 8-1. What did Justify open up at?
40-1.
Yeah. And what about McKenzie now?
McKenzie's 8-1. 6-1, sorry.
And what did McKenzie open up at?
McKenzie opened up at 12-1.
12-1. So Justify is getting a lot of attention, huh?
A lot of action.
Yep. And so, what do you think about
justify it?
Yeah. I mean, I hear you. I hear you. You look at the athlete, and you look at the way Justify has won, and it's very sad we didn't report this, but my Derby horse died. Marino. Did you know Marino injured himself in a training accident and they had to put him down?
No, I didn't know that, Felix.
All right. Remember we had Drayden Van Dyke and we talked about Marino winning at Arkansas? All right. I can't remember the name of the race. The Marinos, he went wire to wire last time in Arkansas. What was the name of the race? I can't think of it right now. But anyway, Marino was euthanized last week. And I thought, remember we had Drayden on talking about Marino, and I kept on asking him, well, tell me about his runnings. And he's really fast. He's really, he's a fast horse. And when Drayden talks about fast horses, I know Drayden knows exactly a fast horse. What do you have?
Oh, no, just going to say we're winding down here. Captain, I wanted to see if you had a play for the listeners today, a handicap play across the country, either Aqueduct, Gulfstream, Santa Anita. Give us a pick for the listeners.
Well, congratulations to both of us yesterday, you hitting hedge fund and me hitting the one coil, the coil horse in the last race yesterday. We did okay there. They paid nicely. Today at Santa Anita, I'm looking at...
the coil horse in the last race was the favorite.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It paid both his horse won, my horse won.
Yeah,
his horse paid $840, my horse paid $520.
All right, so let me ask
That's
you.
That's we're here doing winners.
Yeah, well,
all right, I don't care what they pay, as long as they pay over $4.
Okay, well, if it
wins, it wins.
I know. I hear you.
Okay.
All right.
$4 or $40.
Yeah, but you know what?
Winners.
Listen, but you also got to talk about your losers too.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No doubt about it.
So I'd rather you. I appreciate. I appreciate that. With $540, we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything for our audience if we're releasing horses that are paying $4 or $5. I'd rather not have any race and any horse in the race if that's what it's going to pay. I'm looking for $15, $20, $30, and then you can pound your chest. You understand where I'm coming from?
I'm not pounding my chest.
But I'm talking about if you're going to go ahead and accentuate your winners, then I hope that the return on the investment could be a lot more.
Oh, of course. Well, okay. That'd be nice. Yeah.
Okay, so we do a lot of races. Tommy made a great stand with hedge fund. He singled this horse. Did you hit the pick 4, the pick 5s, or whatever sequences you might have played?
Pick 4, I missed the pick 5, but the pick 5 paid $7.30 something for $1. So yeah, you connected yesterday. If you listen to the show, Captain had Martini Glass. So
Martini Glass was a very, very nice. Now I'd rather, when you come on, if you want to go ahead and
I
really,
did have Martini Glass.
I know. Tout your Martini Glass because that.
All
was
right, hold on. Let's go on. We only got 30 seconds here, Captain. Who's your play today?
Admiral's. That would be Admiral's Cove.
Adios, Captain. You have a good day this Sunday. All right. Thanks for joining us on Track Talk, and promote your martini glass. That was a nice win. That was a nice win. And you know what? Your hedge fund yesterday. We'll go to the top of the hour. Just go ahead and go to bring it up, whatever, if you can.
Oh.
But anyway, that's it. Hedge fund.
That's it.
You know, nice single there.
Yeah, I do like in race 5 at Aqueduct. I do want to mention number 8, Coexistence by Violence, 7-2, first time starter today at Aqueduct. Race 5, number 8, Coexistence.
All right, good show today. Great job from you and the captain. You know, we're on the road to the Kentucky Derby, and we want mutuals higher than 540. I'm sorry. Adios.
You've heard me bragging about Progressive Medical Center and how they've helped me feel so much healthier. But one thing, Dr. Agoli, that a lot of people come to you with is just unexplained pain. They just can't get any relief. Why can Progressive Medical Center's Pain Management Center help them?
First of all, we have to acknowledge that pain is for real, and you've got acute pain and chronic pain. Here's the problem. That acute pain turns to chronic, which is long-standing, and no one's getting to the root cause. There's several key diagnostic components that help us get to the root of what's causing this pain. Is it inflammation? Once we do a thorough evaluation to get to the root cause, determine if it's structural or if it's a metabolic issue. And this way, we put an individualized program for pain management involving correcting the spine, using certain injections when necessary, and we get our patients out of pain quicker, and they stay out of pain because we teach them how to live their life well.
Don't let yourself live in pain any longer. Get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today at progressivemedicalcenter.com.
Progressive Medical, this is your life, live it well.
You take your smartphone almost everywhere you go. Now WSRadio.com can be there too. Search WS Radio in the Play Store for your Android devices or iTunes for Apple, and download the WS Radio application. WSRadio.com, on your phone and in your ear everywhere you go. Download the WS Radio application. Do it now. It's very easy. WSRadio.com.
Are you a small business or nonprofit? Securing Our eCity Foundation offers free cybersecurity seminars so businesses of every size can become more cyber safe. According to Forbes, just one cybercrime incident can cost a company over $15 million. Protect yourself, your employees, and your business before you fall victim to the nation's fastest growing crime. Go right now to securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.